guess you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And now here's your host, Rich Barris.
That's our good friend Don, and just so everybody knows, he's doing pretty well. So welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris. We're not going to do this 1 o'clock p.m. Central Time thing all the time, but unfortunately we had a baby emergency last night, so it just got pushed back. But we will return to noon at some point, probably on Friday. All right, if nothing else happens. All right, so a few things I want to talk about. How's the new House getting off now that we have committee assignments that we're seeing, and we're seeing the rules package that was passed. Wasn't everything, but you got to admit it's pretty different, dramatically different from the Nancy Pelosi model, what is being called the Nancy Pelosi model, but that's actually really not true. All right, for those who didn't like how Nancy Pelosi governed, you can thank Newt Gingrich for that. Newt Gingrich, when he won the gavel in the Republican Revolution of 1994, he dramatically changed how the rules are conducted in the House of Representatives, and he dramatically even changed how laws are passed. All right, he began with the ad hoc process, which is how we see legislators basically voting on 1,000-page bills in 20 minutes without ever reading them. They wouldn't know because they don't write them. Their assistants don't write them. They have input, but for the most part, unfortunately, a lot of third-party people have input on bills these days, and that actually did come from Newt. All right, so Nancy Pelosi was simply mirroring what Newt Gingrich did. I know that's hard for people to hear, but there's a book, and it's definitely written by a lefty, but I would suggest people read it if they're interested in this process, or if it got them interested in this process. Tell Newt to shut up. Very interesting account. And a matter of fact, I'll bring it up. Tell Newt to shut up. Great book, which we were forced to read back in college. It was actually written by, and I know, guys, David Moranis, who was a Washington Post believe, right? Yep. Prize-winning. Ooh. A prize-winning Washington Post journalist. But what he does do, aside from a lot of inner machinations of the debates that went on with John Kasich as the budget chair, but it really goes back and tells this process of how these changes got made. All right. So that's it right there. Tell Newt to shut up. And I didn't know it was like literally they put that in the title. Leave it to a yuppie. No offense to yuppies all around. All right. But leave it to a yuppie to literally title, put in as they're listing their book on Amazon, prize-winning Washington Post journalists reveal how reality gagged the Gingrich Revolution. Especially the beginning part of the book. All right. But for the most part, it's got a lot of good detail into the negotiations between the Clinton administration and Newt Gingrich, which is radically different than the government that we see today, which is a government, again, that really, it does not talk cross-branch the way it used to. You got to give it to Newt Gingrich. At least he knew how to negotiate. At least he knew how to get a bill on the floor, the sausage made in a way where he already knew whether or not he could have some possibility of getting these things passed. All right. Looks like deliveries there. That's cool. And in any event, we'll also want to talk about the Virginia special election today. All right. So there, and a few other things. We can't ignore the story about Biden and these documents when he was the vice president. And I have a clip I want to run. It's about a minute long, maybe minute and a half, something like that, which tells you that, listen, the media is not doing this on accident. This is not like them being hypocritical. They know exactly what they're doing. All right, so we'll get to that. All right, let's start first with the speaker issue. I'm just going to plaster this over top of me. This is a new Rasmussen poll that came out today. All right, what jumped out at me? Oh, and the gun ban. We have to talk about the gun ban in Illinois. Yeah, what jumped out at me immediately about this was, how can I put this? Perhaps it's the way Rasmussen worded the question, and which is something I want to talk to you guys about a lot more today. I want to talk about ideas for more cultural questions for the Public Polling Project, which will be renamed shortly. And if you have any ideas about that, like we're doing on Locals, we're having a little conversation about what to rename this thing. You are more than welcome to send them back and forth. All right. We'll be happy to look at it, but something preferably with a domain that will actually match. But Public Polling Project is being given an acronym that is like triple P. And there already is a polling firm that a lot of people call PPP, Public Policy Polling. And I absolutely, positively do not want to be mixed up with that polling firm, right? Because they very much are a omnibus project, meaning they kind of get funds from different places to be able to like insert a question here and there, give me $1,000, and that's fine. But their IVR, push polling, and I mean the way some of these questions are worded through Triple P, and also their results are not great. I just don't want to be confused with them in the very least. So we're going to have to do something about that. All right. I had a couple of cool names myself, but unfortunately, the domains are taken. We could just keep it on Big Data Poll, but I want people to have an easy domain. They don't have to go to bigdatapoll.com/public/polling/ I want it to just be something like Public Polling Project, which we have that domain. We own that domain. And then it redirects to where it is on Big Data Poll, which, thanks to my very talented employee, is going to all be housed in one singular area where you can contribute, but then also look at the prior historical record of those results. We have some things up right now, obviously, and some charts, and that's cool, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about so far all 16 surveys that we have done since the start of it in the same area where you could say contribute or view the results and go from there. All right, so let's see. Where are we at? Okay, so in a nutshell, this is Rasmussen. The way they asked it, I might have done a little bit different. That's the truth. Where I think that they're giving, because is there, whose fault is it kind of thing, right? And I'm not sure that's the correct way to do this. Because you're already, like, the way you're wording it, you're making it out as if there already is a problem, right? You understand? Like, look at how the question is. Whose fault is it? Or was it a serious problem? How serious is it? Well, of course, people are going to say it was a serious problem because you've already given that appearance that it was an issue. You're calling it a problem. Maybe it should have been worded, is it a serious problem, or do you think that this was necessary in order to benefit the House? Rule changes were necessary in order to benefit the House. Like, it should be maybe something like that. I don't like how it's worded. And, it's nothing totally wrong with it. I just feel like we could have gotten to the bottom of people's opinions better if we would have seen this question worded somewhat differently. Okay. Do you think this was a problem, or do you think that this will ultimately make the House a more representative place, or something like that? Somewhere along the lines of that. I wouldn't have to think about it a lot more. They just released this earlier today. But anyway, the beginning of the new Congress was delayed because of the House of Representatives could not agree on who to become a speaker. All right. Or who could agree on who should be the Speaker of the House. How serious of a problem was this? And it's somewhat of a Likert scale. Not totally a Likert scale, not a traditional, but very serious, somewhat serious, not very serious, not at all serious. Very serious. About a third said. You could see it's largely made up of Democrats. 44% of Democrats said very serious. 29% of Republicans said very serious, and 24% of independents. I want you to keep an eye, on the independent percentage in this. I like CPP, Citizen Polling Project. I like that crap. All right, I'm not going to actually do that again, read something like that out loud, because you'd be surprised how many people will just immediately run to grab a domain that they know you're going to get. So that's good. I'll just keep these, what I think is a good opinion, to myself. But back to the poll. Keep an eye on the independents. All right. Of course, we're going to see what, and I'm going to see if I can grab this right now. Citizen poll, something like that. But yeah, keep an eye on the independents, what they feel. And then I'm just going to tell you, before we even get into so many of these, I really think that it's a shame. How can I put this? It's a shame that so many people would view this, the process. What is the process, right? I mean, it is the process. I would like to see Americans, and voters in particular, not so afraid all the time, all right? Or not so easily rattled. I really wish that was the case. Because unfortunately, it looks like anything that is simply a challenge to the status quo scares people. And I think that's tragic. I do. I think that people should, in the end, be engaged in the process, more interested in it. I would like to see people not being less scared, and then more scared of not doing anything to benefit the Congress or to change the Congress. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, the bottom line is, things can't continue the way they always are if you want to change things. And it's just like very much like the election of Donald Trump in 2016. I've looked back at this a lot, and my conclusion I've drawn is, I don't think Americans really understood what they were getting. Did they really want change if they couldn't deal with the boat rocking the way the boat rocks, right? When a challenge to the status quo is entered into the mix here, you're going to get disruption. Let's call that not chaos, disruption. But isn't disruption a good thing? I believe it is. And yes, in Illinois, they banned so-called assault weapons, all right, which we're going to talk about very, very soon. Choosing a Speaker of the House was delayed because some Republican members refused to vote for Republican caucus leader Kevin McCarthy. Who was more to blame for this? Kevin McCarthy, 39%. The Republicans who voted against him, 39%. Not sure, 22%. Again, I want you to turn your attention to the other in party, right? The non-two-party affiliated voter. They are typically, I'm a little bit shocked at how high the percentage of Democrats who said, I'm not sure. It's possible because it's not their party that there's a bigger uncertainty there. But the fact of the matter is, non-two-party voters are always more unsure or unwilling to give their opinion. When you're polling an election, they're always the ones who are more undecided. When you're polling approval ratings, they're always the one. Typically, the non-party affiliated, the nonpartisan voter is that voter. And yet we see a big chunk of Democrats here saying that they're unsure, even though they blame Republicans who voted against Kevin McCarthy more than Kevin McCarthy. Republicans are about even. It's a 1-point inch. But look at the non-two party. They blame Kevin McCarthy. This is something that could be a real problem if Kevin doesn't perform. He's not well liked. I submit to you all this right now. The 20 or so members who actually went into the House to represent the people who voted for them, not the other 200 who are a bunch of bought-off con artists. The 20 who refused to vote for Kevin McCarthy until they got some concessions may just have given Kevin McCarthy a chance to change his image. He may be so restrained, we'll see, or he may be wiser. I got to tell you, I was actually listening to him the other day. He may be wiser from this process and may, in the end, look like the speaker who really gives a damn about everybody's views. Because speakers are not viewed that way, because they're not that way. They don't care. They want to make the sausage, get it done, raise the debt ceiling, pass the omnibus bills, stick in the party goodies, the goodies that are for the donors and the ideologues who supported their campaigns. They want to stuff those into big bills that people are afraid to vote against, like omnibus bills, which really just have to stop. Omnibus has to stop, period. We need to return to regular order, where we actually hold hearings on things that we're voting for. Guys, I'm 41 years old. I'm old enough to remember when Congress didn't pass on a shingle without a hearing. Yeah, Buttigieg is a national embarrassment. It is off topic, but it is a big story. We can talk about it. This is what happens when you... Folks, this is what happens when you hire people who check boxes. He's young, he's gay, he was in the nomination, he has no qualifications whatsoever, but because he checks all the boxes, he gets hired, and he is probably the worst cabinet member in modern history. The most incompetent and the worst at his job in modern history. It's unbelievable how bad he is. All right, but getting back to topic, I actually think that people will, well, it's possible. I'm saying there's an opportunity here for Kevin McCarthy to finally change his image. If you look at where he is in the, let's go to Big Data Poll and let's look at his image. And it's going to take me a second to bring it up on Everviz, but there is a real opportunity here because there are so many Republicans who contribute to his negatives and his uncertains and independents as well, because there are so many that come from, you're just not going to, chances are, folks, you're not going to win over Democrats. I think it's pretty clear from 2022 that Democrats are hive mind. That's it. I mean, whatever hasn't moved over at this point is going to be hard pressed to move over anymore. I mean, Republicans have to win elections and win over their party, keep their party together and intact, and then they're going to have to, what's the word? I mean, in a nutshell, they're going to have to win over a large enough share of independents that they have a majority in elections. I mean, that's where we're at. Let me see if I can find the layout, which gives the trend for everybody. Do we have it? I know we got it. Come on. Let's pull it up. It should be in a tab. And then I'll put it up after the Rasmussen. I don't want to take away Rasmussen just yet, because there absolutely is something that I'm trying to show you here. There is the share. So let's see if I can bring this up and it actually work. Because I want this one, because I want to show you and compare. I want to show you what happens when we compare Pelosi's and others. You telling me this isn't going to work? Come on. Are you kidding me? That's what happens with updates, folks. Updates throw up JavaScript all out of whack, and then it doesn't want to do what you want it to do. All right, for the most part, let's just pull up Kevin's. That stinks, because I really did want to show you that. Yeah, I have them individually, and we'll just have to show them individually. It's the only option. And I'll just show you the back end so you can see what I see. All right, so let's share. All right, pulling this one up. Here's Kevin McCarthy. All right, and we can pull all those projects up, and I can go one by one. But I'm going to show you the tail end. This is all the public polling projects. All right, and if I get rid of, hey, Laura, if I get rid of that, you can see it. Here's what I see on my end, right, which is where I go in and I add all the data, right, which is pretty cool, right? And actually, I don't think we did. Did we do in August and in October? Did we do favorables? We may have. They may not be in there, but it wouldn't matter because they generally didn't change. You can actually see how Kevin McCarthy's very unfavorable rating was rising quite a bit leading up to the election season, the silly season, right? and his unknowns or never heard of, which was purple, was going down. All right. So here's never heard of, no opinion. Very unfavorable was climbing. It did climb to an all-time high in that last poll that was conducted in June, right before the summer. I think we do have others this may not be the newest chart. We're going to have to get that. All right. In any event, it wouldn't have improved all that much, and it didn't in our polling. It's pretty much Kevin McCarthy's the one with the most volatility. Everybody else was really rather stable. Schumer got a little bit more negative, but McConnell was so negative. You could not run on Chuck Schumer if you were a Senate candidate. They tried. It just wasn't going to work. Because what's the alternative? Very, very unpopular Mitch McConnell? Look, the most important part about this right now is that when we poll favorabilities for congressional leaders, which the new poll go and support, we're going to have to do Hakeem Jeffries, but I'm also very interested to see whether there is an improvement in image for Kevin McCarthy. It is driven by Republicans' own hatred for their own leaders. If you look at Democrats, and for those of you who have been following the Public Polling Project, you know this already. I don't have to explain this to you. Democrats, the leaders in the Democratic Party, are viewed very negatively by independents and by Republicans, but their own party voters circle the wagons. And the vast majority of their own voters like the job they're doing and like them. Thus, they contribute to their favorables. And they keep them from being, well, in Schumer's case, he's negative, but he's not horribly, horribly negative like McConnell and Pelosi. In the case of Pelosi, her extreme, very unfavorables are haunting her, and she's gone now, so it doesn't matter. But she was the highest very unfavorable, whereas McConnell was the highest total unfavorables. But nevertheless, McConnell never had the support of his own party. His own party hated him. That's why his favorables were so bad compared to others. Pelosi, they're bad, but her own party voters like her. Kevin now has an opportunity. What I'm saying is this. The 20 holdouts, the 20 people who went to Congress to actually represent their voters, may have given Kevin McCarthy the opportunity to improve his image. Because if he rallies his party to him, his favorables won't be that bad. They just won't. He has too many people who have never heard of him before. And with what I'm seeing from the Rasmussen poll, which again, let's see if we can show this. Can we show this again? Look at the Rasmussen poll. These independents or non-two-party voters are the ones he needs to make headway with, along with those party voters, but they're going to give him the opportunity to do it. If they say that it was Kevin's fault more than the 20, it means they kind of agree with what the 20 was doing, or at least slightly more of them do. That's opportunity. That's an opportunity for Kevin to win those people over. Now, you're not going to do it like this. You're going to have to do it like this. If everyone understands what I'm saying and catches my drift. He's going to have to be largely on the side of these 20 in order to win them over. Boeberts and Gates, definitely, Russ, toss them a lifeline. All right, we will see. I have very, very little faith. Very little faith that he will do it. But I'm not willing to write him off yet. Why? Because he's got enough now. There's enough going on that can hold his feet to the fire. You may have noticed, I don't want to mock him for his physical appearance, but Dan Crenshaw did not get Homeland Security. Thank God. And it's not the only major win that some of these people, that these 20, the 20, secured. It's not. There are other committee assignments. That's one of the entire reasons MTG was on McCarthy's side. That, and if you believe her at face value, she was afraid they would elect Hakeem Jeffries. Or at that time, it was Steny Hoyer when she first made that argument. But I don't think that was not a real argument. And you know where we stand on that. There is no chance, zero chance, that Democrats were going to break away from their own leader to vote for Kevin McCarthy. And there was zero chance that moderate Republicans had the cojones, Ernest Hemingway, speaking of which, if you saw Twitter, Ernest Hemingway introduced that to the American vernacular. They did not have the cojones to vote for a Democrat. Not after this primary season, folks. Not after MAGA wiped the floor with them. So they would never have done it. It was a fake argument. But she got her committee assignments. She got her investigations. The only problem is, and let's be real, there's a fine line here. There are certain people that they should go after. Dr. Fauci, the American people would love to see Dr. Fauci. I'm gonna be, I don't want to say, like the proverbial strung up. All right, like a lot of people would
want him to be held accountable for
Thank you. Yes, they would like to see. Thank you. That's the better way to put it without getting in trouble. They would like to see Dr. Fauci held accountable, and I think at this point there's going to be some widespread agreement about that because it becomes clearer and clearer that he and the medical fascists did us very, very, very dirty. All right, and I'm not going to get into it this time, but by the way, Rasmussen, you see they ran a poll about vaccine, about what do people think about effects, right? I would just like to say that nobody should be surprised about the reports you're seeing now. That number of voters from our tracker is not at all statistically possible unless there's something real. All right, I'm trying to walk a line here, but you know what I'm talking about. That many people don't fabricate stuff because of their political beliefs. Not that many. And if you notice, there were very clear relationships between age and gender. Where there wasn't a relationship was ideology and party. The difference was not that high. It was not significant. Less so than a consumer sentiment survey. The significant differences were age and gender. Absolutely, Joel. Absolutely. They will put that guy in the guillotine, no problem. It'll be, if they need a head, it will be him. They'll be happy to do it. Without a doubt. Some good comments too here, from locals and Rumble. Let me move them over here so I can see you guys better. Joe Kent running for Congress again. Not surprised. There's no quitting Joe Kent. You pass. You can't pass Special Forces assessment and selection if you're a quitter. You can't do it. I'm telling you right now. And you're still in there, Laura. They should be able to hear you if you want to chime in. But there's no way Joe Kent was going to give that up. Marie Perez very clearly lied all throughout the campaign trail. And, a year and a half is a long time. But Joe Kent is announcing early so Joe can. And you know what, Laura? Can you book Joe? Use my phone. Just send him a text. Get Joe on the show. I want to talk to Joe.
I don't need you. I got my own contacts.
Yeah, dude. I know you do. I'm just saying, like, he'll think, think it's me. Get Joe on the show. I want to talk to Joe. All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if leadership doesn't sabotage again, a big if, I know, then Joe Kent will easily win that district in 2024. It is a primary. There won't be anyone else who will get the Trump endorsement. It's not really up for grabs anymore. What else? There's nobody else who has the story. I would just say this. If I was Joe, I would have and I know guys like him, they don't want to do it. And trust me, Joe, I totally understand where you're coming from. I hate talking about military service. I do. I can't stand. I don't even want to talk. I really don't. But you have a story, and nobody can top that story. And then especially, I don't think I would want to talk about Laura either if I was in a similar position. But you have a story that's unique to this time, like how dangerous the administrative state can be. And without the leadership bludgeoning the base favorite over the head every day, with the Congressional Leadership Fund sending one smear campaign after another, then I think that I think CLF beat Joe Kent. I do. I really do. I think Kevin McCarthy beat Joe Kent. Why? Why am I saying that? Because they hurt him so badly in the primary, they made him to be an extremist. And there was some changes he very clearly needs to make. So whatever else here. What else we got going here? Because I know it's already 1:32. I'm gonna have to start taking more frequent breaks, but shorter breaks. That's what I think we're gonna do if you guys are all right with that, because we need to get reads in, but I want to do it shorter time frame. I don't want to take so long to do reads. All right, so we're gonna probably do 1 or 2 each read and then move on. All right. Speaking of which, let's do that when we come back. I don't want to spend so much time in the house. Why? Because we simply don't know how it's going to pan out. We have the rules package that was, by the way, which Ms. Perez voted against. We have the rules package that was passed. It's not everything, but it was a lot. You have to give credit where credit's due. And then you have the committee assignments. The only issue I see here is that, unfortunately, all of these investigations, like I was saying before, only Fauci would probably go anywhere. You refer something to Merrick Garland, he's throwing it in the trash. And why am I saying that? Look, we don't have a just justice system at this point. And when we come back, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. What we have is a very arbitrary, corrupt, pick and choose, multi-tiered. I don't even know if it is 2-tiered anymore. It's more like multi-tiered. You have the Democrat elite tier who can get away with anything they want. Even if a grand jury was impaneled in the District of Columbia, their voters are going to let them go. We saw that with Michael Sussman. The evidence was overwhelming. They simply don't care. They're so politically brainwashed, they'll let everybody go. I mean, that's what happens when you have a 95.5, 96.4, 97.3 population. And then you have another tier, which I think is like the protected, controlled opposition tier, where you're good as long as you're controlled opposition. The minute you try to break away from that, that's why you have like, butt lickers like Adam Kinzinger and others. By the way, how the punchable face of Matt Gaetz, he says on Twitter. First of all, that's inciting violence from a guy who just spent 2 years crying about Donald Trump inciting political violence. This is how unserious and hypocritical these people are. Secondly, I dare you to punch Matt Gaetz in the face, Adam. You would break your hand on Matt's jaw. You're a friggin' girl man, dude. Get out. The only punchable face. Look at your glass jaw, dude. Look at your glass jaw. He's unbelievable. It's a textbook Twitter tough guy beta bitch, Laura. Can we be real for a second? I mean,
right.
There's no other way to put it,
Yes,
he's
beta
a
male.
textbook version of that. He's a big man on a keyboard and a big man on his cell phone. In real life, you smack him one time, he goes into fetal position and cries for his mommy. And he's inciting violence against a sitting congressman?
Yeah, I know.
After 2 years being on a sham committee that wants to prosecute a former president for supposedly inciting violence. I mean, folks, you cannot make this stuff up.
Nope.
It's just like Democrats spent the entire campaign season talking about how dangerous it is that Republicans have put forward all these election deniers in Arizona and in Michigan and in Georgia, everywhere across the country. And yet they just made Hakeem Jeffries, a ultimate 2016 election denier, the leader of their caucus in the House.
Betas unite.
It's like nothing means anything anymore. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about, I don't want to give it away, but there's a name for this. There is actually a name for this where it's okay. It's not hypocrisy. It's worse than hypocrisy. There's a name for this. And when we come back, we're going to talk about it. For right now, let's do a word from our sponsors here. Okay. 4 Patriots been with us from the beginning. We can't thank you guys enough for buying their products and supporting, their support of us. They have a fantastic product. You actually can see it right behind me. In fact, we love 4 Patriots. And we love that you guys are supporting them. Great company, great product. Food shortages, if this keep up, absolutely will be an issue again, as they were in 21 and in parts of 2020. I see you guys right now in the chat talking about the price of eggs. My neighbor, several of my neighbors are bakers, and I got basically a standing order with one of them. She's fantastic. The price of eggs is now more than the entire recipe cost for her a couple of years ago. Just the eggs alone. So what does that mean? She's going to have to pass that off to the consumer. As far as shortages go, it's possible the price of goods gets so high that demand is actually not a problem because people aren't buying certain goods. But when it comes to stapled goods, when it comes to feeding your family, like 4 Patriots is concerned about, then there's no way around inflation. We have drought issues. We have inflation issues. Even new government policies, despite the Republicans taking over the House, are pushing America's food supply near its breaking point. Our transportation secretary is an idiot. That's why survival food is more important than ever. Create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriots survival food kits. We're not talking about ordinary food. It's good for 25 years, super survival food that is hand-packed right in a family-owned facility in the USA. The kits are compact, sturdy, water-resistant, and they stack easily. They have different delicious breakfasts, lunches, dinners. You can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. Go to 4patriots.com/TPP right on the screen to get your 3-month survival kit. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus 10 free gifts and free shipping. They're called 4 Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Just go to 4patriots.com/TPP to build your own stockpile today. And by the way, that's again, one more time, 4 Patriots, it's on the screen. 4patriots.com/TPP. Thank you, Laura. You're on the ball. And if you are browsing their awesome website for looking at all these other great products that they have, don't forget that you could use promo code TPP. Obviously, the TPP is for the People's Pundit. Promo code TPP10 at checkout to get 10% off your site-wide order. People have saved a ton of money who bought their solar generator package. 10% off a package like that is, look, we all could stand to save $1 these days. Use TPP10 at checkout. All right. I don't care if it's on something as small as solar batteries that could power your cell phones. How awesome are those, Laura, right? Those little cell blocks, solar cell blocks that you use, and they will power your cell phone in the event the power is out. Maybe you already have a generator, but you don't want to drain, put a damper on the generator, so you already charge them up, have them ready to go and ready to rock and roll. Florida, think long and hard about it. Texas, Louisiana, anywhere that can be in the Carolinas, anywhere that is, and that's just hurricane area I'm talking about. Anyone that has any, and that's everywhere these days, isn't it, folks? California, you got wildfires, you got drought, right? The West, you got the drought. The Midwest and the Plains areas, you got tornadoes, you got all sorts of crap. 4 Patriots, all right? And then a new one I want to talk to you about real quick, actually, which is super. If you're in my book club, you already know about this because I was like blown away by this. No one does New Year's resolutions the way that we used to do New Year's resolutions, and we're certainly not doing them as intended, all right? That being said, it wasn't a New Year's resolution. It's simply, a matter of health, for crying out loud. But we've been looking around, Laura, and I've been looking around for a partner who, it would be good to for nutrition. We stopped because of the election. And those of you who know me know, I get addicted to working out. So does Laura. And we love it. We're serious about it. I feel like crap when I'm not healthy. And I'm not behaving healthy. I'm not in my routine. And now that the election season is over and we're just going to have specials, then I want to use this opportunity to do that again. And I would like, obviously, to push positivity up in here. And I'm telling you, I found it. Brickhouse Nutrition is, they say, pure organic superfood. No joke. Every single flavor I've tested, Personally, my favorite is the lemon lime. I don't know how you feel, but the berry is also good. But there's
I
also
like the berry.
you
I
like
like
the
the
berry?
berry.
Yeah, Laura likes the berry. I like the lemon lime. There also is a no flavor one that you can add to a drink that you already use. Let's say you already drink Body Armor to hydrate yourself. That's a great drink to put the non-flavored in. But I do like to put it in something. I don't want to put it just in water. And I would suggest you guys do the same thing. But if you want to drop those leftover pandemic pounds or those Christmas and holiday pounds, but sick of how all the ads for weight loss pills and diets that don't work. How many have we tried, Laura? The fad diets. How many have we tried? All right. Been there. We've done that. They don't work. Know what does work, though? Simply eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Do that, and the weight would probably fall off. But A, vegetables, not a fan, okay? And maybe B, who has the time to prepare that many? That was Laura and I's problem. We eat our share of fruit and vegetables, but when you research how much you really do need of fruit and vegetables, believe me, you are not getting it in your everyday meal. Let's talk Field of Greens. It's a science-backed formula of specific fruits and vegetables that you won't find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism, and you won't find it in any other product. So you'll burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way instead of the fad diets that many of them are not healthy. Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. You'll look and feel healthier fast. But the greater proof comes at your next day checkup when your doctor says, wow, you've lost weight or your cholesterol is better. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And I'm telling you, the first time I tested this, guys, I felt like I had an energy shot, like an energy drink shot. It was simply that my body was lacking everything that you need daily from fruits and vegetables. I felt amazing. And let's get started here, though, with 15% off your first order. Visit fieldofgreens.com. You'll see it right there, fieldofgreens.com, and use the promo code TPP. That's fieldofgreens.com, promo code TPP. I'm telling you, when they say you'll feel the proof immediately, I was like, oh, wow. Right, Laura? I was like, oh, my God, I feel like I'm 10 years younger or so. I'm not even BSing.
He really did. He was like, I feel energized. He actually got a zing from it.
Your
because
body
it does have a lot of dark leafy greens in it. It has a lot of red vegetables in it.
Don't I have one here? Throw me one of those things.
I do have one for you guys.
Throw me one of those things. I want to read some of the stuff that's in there. I won't do it right away. I'll do it in the next read. But the amount that's in there, Laura, is incredible. And then look it up. You really do need that much. And it's just one little scoop. You put it, like I said, the non-flavored you could put in a drink that you're already drinking that you like. I think my son even put it in like iced tea. I would not put it in Body Armor. But the flavors I just mixed with water and bottled water. And it's one little scoop. You don't even need that much of it. And pow, zing. I'm telling you, I'm like, oh my God, my joints felt better. It was insane because you need so much. We always eat balanced meals, but you will never, ever prepare food in your diet, even 3 meals a day, that gets you everything you need. And we spent a lot of time looking at this one. It's a great product. Check it out. Anyway, fieldofgreens.com, TPP is the promo code to use at checkout. All right, let's get back to business here. All right. Let's see. Let's go to this clip. We were talking before the break about there are multiple tiers of justice now, and I'm telling you, without a doubt, that is the case. But I can't say it is good. Maybe I could, but he already said it better. When we're as good as it could be said. When we're talking about this multi-tier system, look at the story with Joe Biden, which was hidden from the American voter before the midterms. Shocker. Just like the Hunter and, the family business stories were hidden from the American voter before 2020. There are all these excuses about, oh, well, he gave it back once it really. And this is ridiculous narratives. Joe Biden was a vice president who is not in charge of classification and doesn't have any authority whatsoever. Donald Trump was the president, has sole authority to decide, not a bureaucrat, the president, to decide what is and what is not classified. And the number of documents doesn't matter. You could have one classified document in your possession that you're not supposed to have and go to jail. I mean, it doesn't matter. It could be something extremely serious. So, for instance, Hillary Clinton had classified information that had to do with nuclear or ICBM sites, which were probably nuclear testing sites too, with North Korea. So it could be one document that is immensely dangerous. The number of documents don't matter. I mean, the arguments that are being put forward here are ludicrous. Ludicrous. But it doesn't matter anyway, because Joe Biden was a vice president who had no business and no authority over those documents. No business with, no authority over those documents. Donald Trump was the president. All of these, like Andrew Weissman on Twitter, did you see that idiotic tweet? He knows he's lying to people. He's a lawyer. Doesn't apply to Donald Trump. It does, however, apply to Joe Biden, but it doesn't matter. And our corrupt media, which is part of the cartel, the media wing of this corrupt cartel that we call our government, because really it's more than just public sector at this point. It is a cartelized system, not a democratic one. They know what they're doing. And the media wing of that corrupt cartel is playing their role to try to obfuscate the story, try to create these differences, it's beyond hypocrisy. To make it okay for one, but not the other. And there's a name for that. Roll it.
So they seem like hypocrites. We could play an endless loop of clips like that for the rest of the hour. You get the point, but they're not actually hypocrites. What they're describing is a caste system where they can do what they want and you are subject to the minutia of their legal code. It's called Anarcho-tyranny. But on to more enduring questions, because we know that already. What is this Penn Biden Center? The Penn Biden Center. What's the purpose of the Penn Biden Center? Well, in April of 2016, one of Hunter Biden's business associates explained the purpose in an email to Hunter. He said that the Penn Biden Center, quote, operates like the Clinton Global Initiative without the money raise. Oh, so all the upside, none of the downside. Without the money raise, really. So you don't have to fly around the world raising money. But as the Washington Free Beacon has reported, actually there was a lot of money being raised, and it was being raised by the University of Pennsylvania, and it was being raised from foreign governments after the Biden Center opened. See the connection here? And we're quoting from the piece. Foreign contributions to the University of Pennsylvania tripled since the Penn Biden Center's soft opening in March of 2017, rising from $31 million in 2016 to over $100 million in 2019. Now, where'd all that money come from? Where do you think? The largest foreign contributor was China. And if you go to the webpage for the Penn Biden Center, you get some idea of what that money bought. So on the site, there's a section called, quote, addressing threats to the liberal international order. Russia and Vladimir Putin are mentioned as threats to the liberal international order, but China, which is currently committing genocide, is conspicuously not mentioned as a threat to the liberal international order.
Penn Biden Center. I'm not aware of that, but I'll check it out. Look, what he said there, that's important, and I didn't mean to cut him off, but he was getting into other things that are, obviously relevant to that discussion, but not, totally relevant to what I'm talking about here, which is this isn't hypocrisy. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. It's good for them, but it's not good for you. It's okay for them. It's not okay for you. It's illegal for you. It's not illegal for them. It's simply just not a matter of hypocrisy or bias anymore. They don't care. They have the hive behind them, and no matter what happens, the hive is not going to break with them. If they did, they'd end up in tier number 2. You're in tier number 3. You're the little guy. And the rules for you are totally different than the rules for them. They're tier 1. Then there's tier 2, though, where the hive is, where controlled opposition is, if they get out of line. All right? They get bumped to tier 3 with the rest of us. All right. So this isn't, again, it is not hypocrisy. It's totally intentional. It's conscious. They are conscious of it. It's a conscious decision to make a multi-tiered system of justice. Anarcho-tyranny. He's 100% correct. Tucker is 100% correct. And by the way, he was correct about the McCarthy thing as well, which is that the 20 did him a favor. I just didn't want to run that clip with that. This is more critical to this conversation. So, I mean, so you run one clip, per. You get one clip per. But it is sad but true, Neil. It's sad but true. It's from locals. We're beyond the point of hypocrisy. That's so 1990s. Media bias. That's so 1990s. Well beyond that now. And I saw somebody write about Tim Pool talking about national divorce. That could bring us right into Virginia. We were scheduled to end at 2, but we got started late again, so I'm going to go over it. Ooh, that's a good point. Hypocrisy is at the intersection of reality and narrative. Yeah. I see what you're saying with that. But we're beyond that intersection now. We came to that intersection a while ago. And because people dealt with that hypocrisy, we now made the turn. We made the turn into, and you could use Tucker's word, anarcho-tyranny, but every authoritarian society has multiple tiers of justice. Multiple tiers of justice. Yeah, and Snowman totally agrees. Well beyond that now. We were at that intersection in like the 90s and the early 2000s. And then with the advent of the Obama administration, we blew right past that. And it was such a pivotal point for that WikiLeaks dump. Really just proved what everybody knew, which is that the media works as a wing of a cartel in a greater system that benefits one party over the other. And I'm not even saying it's like the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party just represents the cartel at this point. But there are, Republicans who are just as, the leadership is part of it. They're just as much to blame because they don't have, again, Hemingway, throwback to Hemingway, cojones to deal with it. All right. So they just allow it. And because they did allow it, we're well beyond that intersection now. All right. So we're at the point of we're at the point of just this precipice of authoritarianism like other countries where there are multiple tiers of justice or tiers of society, I would say. And that's a shame because that strikes at the very heart of something America invented or created, which is this term citizenship, as opposed to a subject. There are other liberal Western societies that came before us in Europe and in other places as well. The Roman Republic had it. Even during the Ottoman days, they had some people who had the term citizen, right? But you can just toss it. I'm going to catch it. Oh, you threw the berry, I see. Oh, okay. Good for you. All right, but I'll grab it in a second. Let me just throw it back here. Boom. Throw it right there. Boom. Boom. Right? I don't want to cover 4 Patriots totally. Never mind. We'll show them in a second. But yeah, they're the Roman Republic, but then again, what happened? Why is there a difference? The difference is personhood versus a true full-blown citizen as it's understood in American law or US society, US legal history in general. There's a difference between personhood and a full-blown citizen. Saul from the Bible, right? Which in the New Testament we know is Paul, right? He was a Roman citizen. But once he stepped out of the hive, he stepped out of that belief system and argued for something else. Did his Roman citizenship ensure him a fair trial? No. His head was cut off. There was always a difference between a subject, which recognizes personhood. It does. In the Hobbesian version of European free societies. But they were just, in the end, subjects. They were not true citizens, even to this very day. For decades and decades. No offense to anybody who lives in them. I'm just calling balls and strikes here. If you're British and you live in the United Kingdom at all, maybe, there are certainly multiple tiers of citizenship on the British Isles, right? So you weren't, even when America still, citizen, the word I am a U.S. citizen meant something as recently as the 80s and part of the 90s, right? I think in 2000, George W. Bush was the beginning of the end of a true citizen. Thank you, George. The Department of Homeland Security, TSA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What is the difference? There's a few differences, and one of them is a recognition, like Jefferson put it. A citizen has rights like, subjects have rights. But really, the difference is a citizen understands that with every right, they have an equal, if not greater, duty that is associated and or attached to that right. Why? Because of this concept of inalienable, unalienable, whatever version you're reading, rights. As a subject or a citizen of Rome, you were still granted those rights by the government itself. In Rome, the Senate or the emperor later at post-Republic era. In Europe, you were granted those rights, or the monarchy just simply recognized them. The Magna Carta forced the monarchy to recognize more rights, right? Which was the beginning of things like property rights. And it's very different in the United States. In the United States, those rights come from the Creator. And because they do, you have a duty to protect them. And because an American citizen understands that a government didn't give them those rights, and they may recognize them for the time being, but rest assured, eventually that government will try to take those rights from you. Even though they're God-given, they will try to deprive you of them. Because that's what government is. That's what they do. That is the nature of government and power itself. So, like Jefferson said, you have a duty to protect them. If you have the right to self-defense, you now also have the right to understand how to defend yourself. And you have the duty, to figure out how to defend yourself. You have a duty to understand why you have a right to defend yourself. It's all encompassing. Why are we given a Second Amendment? Is it to hunt deer, or is it to protect the rest of the rights that are unalienable, that were given to us from our Creator? And what is the best way to protect us? Should we only have the right to defend and protect ourselves with certain weapons? Or, basically, we should have the right to protect ourselves with all weapons that are possessed by those who seek to take them from us. I think most modern Americans, sadly, would say, that's insane. But is it? Because private citizens had ironclads in the mid-19th century. During the time when the founders even wrote and ratified the Bill of Rights. A private citizen had cannons, if they were wealthy enough. They had the ability and the right, maybe not the means, but the ability and the right to obtain any weapon that the government had. They feared standing armies. At one point, the citizenry was armed well beyond the official army and the militia when it was called up. The militia was the armed citizenry. And most modern Americans would say, that's nuts. You can't have citizens running around with hand grenades and machine guns, right? Weapons of war. Really? This is how far we fall. Ernest Hemingway hated war. Hated it. But he would never have been insane enough to give up his right to obtain the weapons to fight one. And he also believed once you were in it, and you better win it. If you're in it, you better win it. And frankly, he was a patriot. For those who don't know this history, and I'm not going to show you, but you can look it up, we had a name for these people. There were citizens, private citizens, because we were so unprepared for conflict, being encouraged by the government to basically patrol our shores for U-boats, for German U-boats. It was called the Hooligan Navy. Ernest Hemingway had a, by modern standards, rinky-dink wooden boat. And what did he do with it? He loaded it with hand grenades and Thompson submachine guns. Now, they were instructed to report it if they did see a U-boat. Obviously, to report it to the authorities, not Ernest Hemingway. His plan? Depth charges with hand grenades. It's just so different. Joe Biden, well, the Second Amendment didn't mean weapons of war and assault rifles. Nowadays, we used to have Ernest Hemingway loading up his wooden boat with hand grenades and Thompson submachine guns to basically attack a U-boat that would have blown him out of the water, hands down. But
Amen.
He still was going to do it. Didn't matter to Ernest. Didn't matter. He was a patriot, and what was he doing? What Jefferson told him was necessary in order to remain free. Does being free mean sometimes you die? Yup. But he would have done it. Fast forward now to present day, and we have a bunch of yuppies who clap like seals when they take our ability to defend ourselves away, like Illinois just did. Joe Biden says, the Second Amendment didn't mean, wasn't absolute. No, it was absolute. It absolutely was. You want to own pineapples? That's your prerogative. You want a Thompson submachine gun? That's your prerogative.
They actually applauded their disarmament. This is ridiculous.
Of course they did. Meanwhile, sadly, what had happened is during another period of the Mr. Rogers mindset, we can call it that, which is after the war, G-men, who are about as crooked as the criminals they were chasing. Like, I'm not sure why you amass a posse to hunt John Dillinger because he's a murderer and then you murder John Dillinger. They murdered Babyface Nelson. And by the way, we don't have to put up the picture of Melvin Purvis again. We've been through this in another episode. Hoover hung him out to dry out of jealousy. And because Hoover wanted to be the guy who was selling the fake image of a G-man. Somebody had to hang for it. They were supposed to be well-behaved yuppies who had the moral right, who chased down those working-class scumbags who resorted to a life of crime to feed their family. What really happened is those yuppies just had more money and firepower and resorted to the worst tactics to be able to win. And it became about winning, getting your man, being more powerful than your adversary, whether it was Melvin Purvis at the bottom or it was Hoover at the top. I got to be more powerful than my adversary. So I have to spy on my political opponents who may seek to restrain the FBI. I've got to build dossiers. I've got to threaten to tell Franklin Roosevelt that his wife is a lesbian because my agents have been spying on her in the Rose Garden. Martin Luther King wants rights for black people. Let's make sure we spy on Martin Luther King and catch him having extramarital sex so we can be very petty and try to block him from receiving an award. Don't you get up there and take that award for your civil rights activism. If you do, I'm sending your wife a tape of you and this woman. And they did. These are the people that are telling you that you don't need certain things to defend yourself from them. Honestly, you have to be a little bit stupid to believe that. Or a little bit cowardly. Can we be real for a second? Aren't you a little cowardly if you support this stuff? Aren't you just afraid to do what Jefferson told you to do, which is exercise your duty to ensure you're right? So you'd rather have someone else do it for you? Even if that someone else is immoral and corrupt and dangerous? Could be the end of the rights you now enjoy for your children and your grandchildren? Guns scare you? So you'd rather the police and the feds be the only ones who carry them? Well, that's a shame. Because Jefferson said, any right that you have that you are not willing to exercise your duty that accompanies it, you're going to lose it. Franklin has a great quote about the Second Amendment and security in general. If you're that person who is duped by the public safety, this is gun safety, the public safety argument. Believe me, they don't care about public safety. If they did, they wouldn't have targeted weapons that they misname as assault rifles, assault weapons. That's not what's killing people in the state of Illinois. Illegal firearms, many of which are trafficked from their own corrupt peers. They want you to believe like all these guns come from like an Alabama gun show. No, they come from corrupt politicians in many cases and corrupt DEA agents. Anyone who's from the street knows where guns come from. Is there a ring of people who go to the South and buy weapons in the South and then sell them illicitly in places where they can't do that? Yes, there is. But is that where they get shipments of AK-47s from? No, they get them from Adam Schiff's friends, corrupt oligarchs who bribe corrupt politicians and corrupt G-men to get them on the streets. That's where they come from. Tech 9s in crates for Bloods and Crips do not come from some gun show in Florida. Only a yuppie with no street experience would believe that. And if those are the people you're entrusting to protect you, then Franklin's right. You don't deserve the right to defend yourself or safety. You don't deserve the freedom of either that is associated with either. You are a coward who has abdicated your duty, and you will lose it. Go ahead, Laura.
I was just simply going to say people who do not have guns are very ignorant to how the process is. I will tell you that when I purchased my gun, my rifle, I should say, Pegasus, I had to give my license. I had to fill out a form. I had to wait, 72 hours?
Yes.
Right? It was 72 hours. It's not like, oh, I like this gun. Here's money. Thank you. Have a nice day.
And he knew we were on the hunt for that kind of modified rifle. So he saw it at a gun show. Being that he had a gun license, the gun store owner, he grabbed it for us, right? And still, even though he knew who we were, there was no loophole. We had purchased firearms from him like crazy. There's no loophole. I had a concealed carry in Florida, and there was no loophole. You either have gone through the training and you get your concealed carry, and then you can purchase things on the spot because you've already been through the process, or you wait. And you will get that background check all the time. And by the way, Pegasus is beautiful for those who want to know. It's an M10. It's gorgeous.
She's my baby.
M10. It's gorgeous. Outfitted, front handle grip. I mean, we don't have to get it. Collapsible stock. Green, not red. ACOG. Blinding LEDs. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. But Laura and I both are from the North. I was in the Army. Even though I grew up around firearms, my godfather was a former LERP. He was like the Korean War's version of a LERP. And my dad used to hunt, even though he stopped after a while. He just he didn't see the sport in hunting anymore. I remember he's like shot, a deer, and sometimes, for the most part, it was a great shot, but he just didn't like it. It just missed the deer's heart, and it's still a good shot, but he had to go and he had to track it and then end it. He just didn't like it. He was like, you know what? I didn't like that experience. You drop them in one shot and it's all right. And as long as you use the parts that, you don't waste any animal. But I'm that way now too, Laura, especially after the Army. Like it doesn't, like a deer doesn't shoot back, like turkey hunting is one thing. No, I do like turkey a lot. So ducks too. So I got Laura loving duck.
I love duck. Oh, duck is so, I don't care how cute they look. They are tasty. And just for the comment real quick in the, one of the chats, I was trained by an expert how to shoot, and I shoot very well.
Yeah,
Aim
she's
small, miss small.
Aim small, miss small. And yeah, so I was already exposed to that, to firearms growing up. But most of the people where Laura and I are from, she was Bronx, Staten Island, and we lived in Jersey for years. They don't know that. And they're ignorant to it. Most people who are like anti-Second Amendment are the most ignorant people to firearms in the damn country. I don't know anyone who has come from the gun-hating North and then exposed to the gun culture I've never seen anybody who was pro-gun, move to like the South or, some other gun-friendly area and become anti-gun. I've seen a lot of people who are anti-gun because they were ignorant move to the South and become pro-gun. Like you never see the other way around. They are extremely ignorant. That's why David Hogg could call an AR-15 an assault rifle and be serious about it. AR means armor light. Armor light. It's the brand. It doesn't mean assault rifle. It is a semi-automatic rifle. Handguns are semi-automatic in the vast majority of them. Handguns are what kill people in Illinois. Gun violence in Illinois is urban gang violence. Crime. It's associated with crime from low economic opportunity, where you either sell drugs or you have no money. You either commit crime or you have no money because there is no opportunity in their neighborhoods. Now, you can do what one of my battles did from Newark and just join the Army and get out of there, build another life. But most of them don't. Banning semi-automatic rifles is not going to stop anything or anyone. The violence will continue. It will largely be carried out by handguns, as they know. They know, folks. Again, they know. This isn't about stopping gun violence in Chicago. This is about taking away your right to defend yourself. Why? Because a semi-automatic rifle is a more accurate weapon than a handgun. You cannot compete with them with handguns. They're trying to take away your ability to defend yourself. It's that simple. And gun control originated from Democrats who didn't want black people to defend themselves. That's the history of gun control in this country. With the exception of there were some things in the West. One could argue Wyatt Earp employed certain forms of gun control and other lawmen in the West, although Wyatt Earp was the first one to do it, I believe. In Dodge, you had to check your firearms. But it's not the same, because once you were in your home or you could not be in public and you couldn't be publicly intoxicated or in certain establishments with your firearm. You couldn't be in the saloon with your firearm. You couldn't be in the casino or whatever they called it back then with your firearm. That part of the saloon, whatever. Wyatt Earp didn't unilaterally tell you you don't have a right to own certain weapons. It's not the same. Now, that's exactly what they did to black people during the Redeemer era in the South. They are not allowed to own those weapons. And while they didn't have it codified in laws, they used similar tactics like they used to prevent black people from voting. The poll tax, the literacy test. Believe me, they know it will do nothing to prevent gun violence in Illinois. And even if you did take away all weapons, our major problem is outside of urban violence, which is a cultural and economic problem. Our other major problem when you're looking at things like mass shootings, it is in fact because we have mass mental health problems in this country. We're a sick country. We're very sick. It's tragic, but it's true. Anyone who grew up in the 80s and 90s knows we were going to have major mental health problems. Then in the 90s, instead of addressing it, we just let Big Pharma pump our children with pills. And did God knows what to their brains while they were developing. Thanks, Frank Luntz. All right, and others, but you know what I mean. All right, let's do our other read before we move on to Virginia, which I want to talk about. All right, because I see a lot of talk about national divorce, and it's not funny, but it's interesting to me because we are about to talk about the results of the special elections in Virginia, one in particular, where it is, I would argue, very indicative that what we have been talking about is going to continue. But I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully I don't miss my points. I don't miss every point. There's several I want to get to. But before we do, let's rock out here with TPP. I left this up on purpose. This is pretty cool. It's a free 1 ounce Ronald Reagan coin, and you can get that actually if you beat them to the punch, right? So when you fill that out, if you can call them before they call you, which actually is relatively easy, right, Laura? It's actually relatively easy. Then when you sign up, you'll get some. Now it's a Reagan coin. It could be different with others, but it's really cool. But I'll leave that up there. But this obviously, again, thanks to GOLDCO for partnership, and thanks to you guys for supporting that. I was not impressed with the jobs report. Were you? That was supposed to be a holiday jobs report. Are you kidding me? 225,000 jobs? It's a freaking joke. For the busiest holiday month of the year? Last time the economy looked like this, the stock market tanked, folks, 50%. U.S. dollar lost nearly as much, 46% of its value. Price of oil quadrupled. And by the way, I hear we're in for some serious price increases for gas again. So buckle your seatbelt. Yet while the economy collapsed and inflation ran through the roof, the price of gold shot up 1,300%. Silver, 2,400%. So if history repeats itself, we could see this happen again. Kidding? Can you afford to miss out on what could be the biggest gold and silver boom of our generation? That's why I want you to visit tpplikesgold.com, because when you do, and by the way, TPP likes silver right now, but the URL is tpplikesgold.com, because when you do, you'll not only get the chance to protect your retirement savings with gold and silver, you could get $10,000 or more in free silver just for doing it. It's a rare opportunity. So don't miss what could be your best opportunity to protect your retirement savings. Visit tpplikesgold.com. That's tpplikesgold.com. And I'll tell you what, TPP, like I said, like silver, folks. TPP really likes silver. The URL is different. But I think I got like 6% was my offer. 6% extra silver. The deal is legit. It's a great time to do it. So check it out. Also, thanks to our other sponsors before we get back here. BrickHouseNutrition.com. That's our new one. I'll do it in a little bit. But Brickhouse Nutrition. And as always, 4patriots/TPP. 4patriots.com/TPP. And BrickHouseNutrition.com, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. I want to read this to you. But, okay. Virginia. All right. There are two schools here that are serious. One is that Another resounding victory for Democrats. Another catastrophic defeat for Republicans and Glenn Youngkin. The other one is that it really, if you extrapolate out statewide, because it's not the only district, but if you extrapolate out statewide, then the results of the Senate were not that bad for Republicans. I say bull schnikey. It's not a good result for Republicans. It's not. Is it tragic? Is it catastrophic? No, but it's not good. Legislative seats are a lagging indicator. Why? Because localized politics are typically more, if you're an incumbent Republican, but your legislative district is getting bluer and bluer, you could survive that for a while. Even though the state, when you look at like presidential and senatorial elections, will become bluer quicker. Let's say your state and your district's a reason is getting more like Virginia used to be Republican, but it's just getting bluer and bluer. Again, it voted for Barack Obama. Mitt Romney couldn't win it back. Trump lost it twice. Right? You're going to see the political realignment at the presidential and the senatorial levels first, almost all the time. Depends on the electoral schedule, but typically the House, in this case, the House of Delegates, and the state Senate, state legislators in general, will be a lagging indicator. They're the last to fall. That's why it took Democrats so long. They had won the state twice at the presidential level, 3 times at the presidential level, but it took them after those 3 wins to take over the state house. Why? Or to take both. Incumbency is part of it, yeah, but it's also about ancestral voting and the strictness of the partisan voting index. Now, this was a seat. Alan Roos defeated his Republican opponent last night, barely, but he did. All right, and it was a incumbent Republican who represented it. All right, now this was, I think, I think it was the most important race of that night. All right, and it was very, very close. But I hate to tell Republicans, why does this matter? It's because of the area that this district is, where Aaron won. Virginia Beach, Norfolk, right? It tells me, and by the way, this overall, I'll get to what it tells me in a second, but it expanded the Democrats' majority in the state Senate 22-18. So Republicans are losing some of the gains from 2021. No, aren't losing. They've lost. And this is problematic going into 2024, because as I had argued with people who say, move on from Trump or Trump-like candidates, and Glenn Youngkin could win Virginia if he was the presidential nominee. Ron DeSantis could probably win the state of Virginia if he was the presidential nominee. There is no evidence to support that. And in fact, off-year special elections for gubernatorial elections in these states like New Jersey and Virginia were not at all very predictive about who carried the state in the subsequent presidential election. And they're just not. All right. Maybe Bob McDonnell could have carried Virginia in 2012 if he would have ran. But a special election is not indicative of partisan voting index at the presidential level. So people who are much more likely to vote for the party that is in their party that they normally vote for president, and in this case, in Virginia, it's independents. They don't always do that. They may not even do it for the legislature, and they definitely don't do it for a president, but they may do it for governor. And in the case of Youngkin, because they did do it for Youngkin, other Republicans benefited down ticket, all the way from the lieutenant to other, statewide, the attorney general, and then ultimately the House of Delegates and state senators. These were people who are like, I like Glenn Youngkin, I'm going to give him a chance. And oh, by the way, I might as well vote Republican while I'm at it. Many of those independents did that, even though they had voted for Joe Biden. In fact, we know from our polling that it was like a 15, 16-point swing. Yes, the swamp expands that's a good PW HDC said, swamp influence expanding further than just Northern Virginia suburbs, the burbs. Nova is expanding. It is. And I don't know if you guys recall this episode where we went over, when you look at places like Nova, Norfolk, Loudoun, and Virginia Beach, it's not state-to-state migration we're talking about here. That's one at start of this, where if you're a yuppie, highly educated, and you want to be in defense or government, and you're a liberal, you're a big government person, you're going to be milking the you-know-what of the government for your entire career. You literally count on big government to survive and give you an outsized paycheck that you really don't deserve, all right? You're going to move from other parts of the country to that area to be in it. Laura's ex-stepfather, defense contractor, disgustingly wealthy, moved from the working class area of Jersey to like Bel Air, Maryland. Right? So it expands out now, and it is expanding out. But also, recall that episode I was just referencing, the immigration from people to these areas, from Loudoun to Virginia Beach, they're not the same as they were in the last preceding 3 decades. Asians are no longer Chinese dissidents who remember Tiananmen Square. Oh no. These are educated leftists who think the communist government in China is pragmatic. They're not authoritarian anymore. The new generation is just pragmatic. If they're they're not, is the point. Now, it used to be Northern Virginia and other parts of Virginia throughout the 90s and even during the first term of George Bush. Much of that was European immigration, many of which were from Catholic majority countries at the time. That's not the case anymore. They're from Africa. They're from Middle Eastern Muslim countries. They're from, and there's some Indian Sikhs, which can actually, in many cases, that can actually help Republicans sometimes. But in this case, it's not. And of course, they're from the most liberal Latin American countries out there. I wouldn't even say liberal is the right word. They're from the most left-wing government-run Latin American countries. So, once again, I think we're seeing the lesson of 2022, which is that unless you get a certain group out and you enact policy changes that just stop this trend, unless you get a ton of, and I mean outsized share of second, third, fourth generation Virginia, working class, then no matter how much you do better among educated voters, it's probably not going to be enough. And that's what happened here. It was a low turnout election. It's true. And you see it at Little Creek and other DOD facilities. Very true, Rich. Little Creek is a great example. It's great. That's unfortunately for Republicans the long-term trend. And I think you're extremely naive if you think, oh, we'll just nominate Ron DeSantis or Glenn Youngkin and he'll win Virginia. That is a pipe dream. Now, could the country be in such bad shape that a Republican could win Virginia in 2024? It's possible. It's possible, but for the most part, that it's not there yet. How did Glenn Youngkin win, by the way? Do we have to go over this again? He had the endorsement of Trump, plus he didn't scare the suburbanites. He had MAGA with disaffected suburbanites. He drove mountain turnout to 1/5 of the vote. In no small part thanks to the help of Donald Trump. That's just true. Nobody had come close to that number except for Donald Trump. And actually, Youngkin exceeded him. Why? Because it was 4.1 million, a little over 4 million voters, as opposed to over 5 million when Trump was running. Presidential election draws more. So the bottom line is, you have to have both coalitions out there to win a state like Virginia. He got the most conservative electorate in, I think it was what, guys, since 2004? I think it was 2004. 2006 was moderate. 2008 was moderate. Even 2010 was rather moderate. Let me see. Sometimes you have to go back into the archives. It could be 2010, maybe an exception, because I know 2018 was not. 2014 was not. I remember. 2010 may be an exception because it was such low, pathetic turnout. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic.
What did you do? I can't even get you back out there in solo version.
Oh, you just got to remove the Aaron Ross thing, but just hold on because I want to put it up. I'm going to try to grab the exit polls from 2010 and put them up. Where's Roper? Come on, Roper. I'm looking for exit polls. 2020 was very moderate. Very moderate. I don't want to click on these people. I don't like giving these people hits, but it may be the only way. This is just crap. Let's see if we can find. This is just. Yeah, this is garbage. Let's see actually if we can get Edison's. Let's see if we can get eggs. A lot of this is old now, so they archive them and they're not there anymore. That's the problem. CNN's exit poll webpage from 2010 is broken. Try to click on it and check it out. I hate to say it, but I'm going to have to click on the New York Times. Ugh. Blah. There we go. Yeah. Virginia. Let's go by state. Can I go by state, or they just give national? They may have just given national. Let me see. State results. Let's go to Virginia. Exit polls. Why won't it do exit polls? That's election result. I want the exit polls. Aha. That's the state. Okay, here we go. They didn't do them. They don't. Unfortunately, the New York Times does not have. Maybe if I go to. That's governor. Maybe they had it. No, let's just do the House. House overall. House exit polls by state. It's not going to. This is terrible. Come on. No. They don't. They're just giving it. That's unfortunate. They don't have governor, of course, because they're always off. Let me see if they got it for the Senate. There was no Senate race in 2010. They can't. So they're not giving the House exit polls by state for Virginia, and that's a shame. But if I remember correctly, it was still only like 34% conservative. I could be wrong there, but I think I'm right. So Youngkin drove it to 38% almost, right? Roughly 38%, something like that, which was an extremely high number for conservatives. And coupled, well, how did he do that? He didn't do it in the burbs. That happened because he drove mountain range turnout so high. It shifted the percentage of conservatives. And we took a lot of flack when we had our poll out there. It was like, oh, of course. He's got the mountain at like 19%. Mountain's not going to be any higher than 16%. Remember that? But it wasn't. It was 19%. On the money. On the money. So you really need both to do it. It doesn't mean if there were 5.3 million voters in Virginia in a presidential election that Youngkin would be able to do it. I don't buy it. All right. Another great example, Incognito and Drew Spider, replying to Drew Spider, who are there having a conversation back and forth. Exactly. Dixon got crushed because, and Republicans in general in Michigan, because they did not get the Trump voter with Trump on the ballot in 16 and 20. You might remember that Republicans got crushed in Michigan in 18 too. There are these voters, and they outnumber the educated vote in many of these places, Michigan being one of them. These voters will not vote for a textbook Republican. They won't. Macomb County. How many voter analysis models have we done on Macomb County, folks? It's majority Democrat. Yes, they don't have registration by party, but we use these inference models for a reason, and they're very, very accurate. Statewide, Republicans now outnumber inferred Democrats in Michigan, but not in Macomb County, the home of the Reagan Democrat. Obama won it twice. Trump won it twice. It flipped to Trump twice. Dixon got crushed in Macomb County. Monroe, another one. And Trump romped it in Monroe. Dixon significantly outperformed Trump. So if you're going to lose Oakland, you need Macomb and Monroe to offset how bad you get pummeled in Oakland County. And by the way, they still got pummeled. All those Republicans. It doesn't matter if they're establishment like they were in 18 or they're Trump endorsed like they were in 2020. Now, part of that is because Dixon did not have the money that Gretchen Whitmer had. The Republican Governors Association did not want Doug Mastriano, Tudor Dixon, Tim Michaels, who funded himself, which is why he got closer than everybody else. They didn't want Trump's allies in the Midwest states. Why? Because who is the governor of a state absolutely dictates how a presidential election is conducted. Is it conducted free and fair, or is it not? That is true. Everyone in politics who does this for a living knows that is true. Ron DeSantis becomes the governor of Florida. Rick Scott did not do enough on this front, but DeSantis gets in there, gets rid of Linda, gets rid of Brenda, and all of a sudden, the share of the Republican vote skyrockets in Palm Beach and Broward County. You think that's an accident? It's not. They don't want Trump to have allies in the Midwest states because if he wins the Sun Belt back, Georgia, and he flips Arizona, he was running like 5 points ahead of every other Republican in Arizona. He was running almost 10 points ahead of them in Georgia. They see this. They're not dumb. He was running way ahead of Tudor Dixon in Michigan. He was actually leading Biden in Michigan. Leading. They needed Democrats in these states to make sure that they could deny Trump the Electoral College. Ricketts' family hates Donald Trump. The RGA, well, headed by what? Figurehead Doug Ducey? Come on. Hates Donald Trump. These aren't Republicans like you viewers who are Republican are Republicans. They're swamped through and through. They're controlled opposition, and they don't care as long as people are stuffing money into their pockets. That's all they care about. They don't care about you. And honestly, I would be worried because, like, take Emerson. Yeah, they had Dixon losing, but they had her losing pretty bad, but they didn't have her losing that bad. The truth is, folks, all of these like first times that we've seen these 2020 and 2022 back to back now, we've seen this has never happened in American history. Myriad examples for each election cycle. What has changed? Mail-in drops, mail-in drop boxes. That's what's doing it. That's why PA 5 didn't look like Virginia 10, even though they have very similar demographics, very similar partisanships, very similar shares of white college-educated voters, very similar shares of black urban voters. It's you could have districts that essentially mirror each other who voted 20 points different. Now, not all of that is drops in mail, but a lot of it is. And stupid Republicans who thought they would just be quiet because it'd be a great way to just get rid of Donald Trump didn't realize that obviously they would turn that against you, you stupid tools. Which is why now Georgia Republicans all of a sudden care. Isn't that funny? They want an audit. Again, you can't make this stuff up. You go to Raffensperger and ask him for an audit. He did fine. What are you complaining about? Because some of your other guys didn't make it? Of course they didn't. They're going to pick you off soon too, fools. You stupid children.
Next in line.
You're damn right. You're next. All right, so wow, yeah. Friday. Free Will and Friday. I guess we'll have to talk more about this on Friday because we're about out of time. I want you guys to think a little bit of a homework assignment. I want more culture in the public polling project. What do I mean by that? Like, I don't want to ask the old culture war crap, abortion, stuff like that. I want to get to the core of changing belief systems in America. Maybe we even, I don't know. I got a bunch of ideas, like, entertainment preferences. I want to get to the core of how belief systems are changing, even some things about religiosity maybe, but I want to be creative with how we do it. Once a year at least, I want to ask the question simply, do you believe in God? We used to do this a lot. Ashton, how did Raffensperger get elected? I scratched my back. I'll scratch your back. You scratch mine. Okay? You owe me. I owe you. Right? That's how. What the great, what's his name? God, I don't have a virtuous republic around. Used to be a George Mason. I forgot where he is now, but Tom Wick, right? I think. Oh God, I would like to actually get his name quoted correctly. I quoted him, but it's been I wrote the book 10 years ago. Thank you. Oh, it's probably not even going to be anywhere near close. We have to go to the birth of big government, cronyism, and democratic despotism. That's a good chapter. Ziegler, great. One of the, you have some professors that like really change how you think, make you think. Robert Ziegler was one of them. He was a public policy scholar. And he always said that there is a difference between watch what politicians do, not what they say, and that the history of public policy can tell you a lot about their true intentions. And one of the works that he relied on quite a bit actually was the study of Social Security, which was called old age insurance when they sold it to people, but how it was sold was not how they intended it to truly be. As the pace of mechanization accelerated, older workers, employers, and pundits agreed could not keep up. And as the young moved to the cities, families nucleated, leaving no rooms for the superannuated parents or grandparents. So basically, this concept that modern-day progressives invented the concept of retirement, invented the concept of retirement homes, nursing homes, the need for that. Back then, families took care of each other, and they did it from the start, from birth to the bitter end. So families, and we talked about this in a show last week, I think it was, but during Christmas, that ultimately the growth of big government is our fault. They just are filling in roles in society that we used to do ourselves. Right? So Ziegler's a brilliant guy, was a brilliant guy. But that's not what I'm looking for here. Here he is. It's got to be coming up soon. Todd Zwicky. And I don't know where Todd is now. You can follow him on Twitter. He's a historian. At the time, it was at George Mason University. But, yeah, I mean, basically, a lot of great stuff with him. This is separate, though. This is on the evolution of legislatures, which were citizen legislatures, even the federal government, to career politicians, and how it was done. Again, modern progressive did this with the ratifications, the log rolling deal, and the ratification that came with it of the 16th and 17th Amendment, right? And by the way, I'm not alone. You ready? So the 17th Amendment really was disastrous for representative government. Even though I know that sounds counterintuitive, it is. Empirical tests have demonstrated support for the proposition that the movement from direct elections of senators was an attempt to change the institutional structure in which rent-seeking behavior took place. Special interest. The 17th Amendment increased the average tenure of senators, thereby making available a greater number of special interest contracts, as well as increasing their durability and value. So just as Zwicky said, it is the durability and the value of the scratcher-back relationship that is really buffered by the 17th Amendment. That's how people like Raffensperger, get reelected. Why did it not hurt Raffensperger, but it hurt Walker? Because he's scratching backs, and they're scratching his. So if you're going to do something like Ruby talks about, you're not going to do it to Raffensperger. All right? There may be a huge under or overvote, but we're not going to do it to our boy Brad. He took care of us. By the way, you know who knew this better than anyone? Chris Christie. That's how he was able to get reelected by 20 points in a very blue state. Because it's Tammany machine politics in most of the urban centers of, not all of the urban centers of New Jersey. Hell, Les Laura will tell you, it could be Tammany politics, style politics, even not in highly urbanized areas. In suburbs, outside metro suburbs, it could be Tammany-like politics. But you scratch their back, and they'll scratch yours. They'll make sure you're okay. And that's not to say that Christie didn't legitimately win the Hispanic vote, that he didn't legitimately win 20+% of the black vote. He did win over people, but those people in Bergen County, for instance, Hoboken, believe you me, without the okay from the bosses, they weren't voting for him. And some of it is scratch your back, some of it is scratch my back. And then with Chris Christie, some of it was just, I will threaten it out of you. You will do this, or I will pull your sister's liquor license. You'll do this, or I will make sure no concrete shows up at your job sites. That's how New Jersey rolls. Yep. And now we're just to the point of this. Lib billionaire super PACs buying votes. Absolutely. With apps and everything, paying people whole paychecks if they hit certain targets and fill it out in the app. These people weren't even political people. They just needed money. So they did it. Billionaires have the money to spend. You can pay $42 a person to walk. You can pay a single mother $500 to knock on 40 to 75 doors a day, or 40 to 75 contacted voters that you intend to get a ballot to. That's what they were doing. And they were doing it. That's how they outperformed in these areas. And then all they did was run major media to provide themselves air cover. So when they outperformed the polls by 8 points, or 4 points, really, let's say 4, 2 to 4, it wouldn't be terribly surprising. That's how Washoe County gets a couple drop box dumps that don't at all resemble the rest of the vote. There's nothing inherently illegal about it. Is it dirty? It is. But there's nothing inherently illegal about it. They are bought and paid for harvesting ops. Absolutely. Trust me, we had people sign up for them and pretend to be Democrats. We know what they're doing. We know what they did. And then they had the help of big tech. So let's say you had this operative knock on your door and, oh, you got to vote. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote. And then Apple, just coincidentally, bings that person. You know how easy it is to vote by mail? And you could drop it off or even give it to a trusted third party. Right under that, Apple News. Blast you with a story. It's dangerous if these election deniers are elected. Then a week later, that person comes back and knocks on your door. You requested your ballot. Did you get it yet? Yeah, I did. It's 7 at a time to figure it out. Well, let me help you with that. In fact, I'm headed to the drop box now. I got about 5 others from your neighbors. I can put in the box for you if you're okay with it. That's what happened. And anyone who is arguing that didn't is either a liar. He's either a liar or they just don't know any better. They're not in it, so they don't know it. Yeah, I mean, the ground game is at 80s. Aaron said that I don't want to blow up how much you got for it, but you had a crew of 50 people out every day knocking doors for free lunches and gas money. It works without a doubt. And I will tell you, there's 2 major Republican walking firms. They suck. Laura and I are actually thinking of starting our own because they're not good. They don't charge enough. That's number one. Your walkers are not going to compete if you're paying them a fourth of what your opposition is paying them. But Aaron, you had a big team. 50 people is big, especially for a congressional district. There are firms out there that will charge a congressional candidate $100,000 to $200,000 for a certain amount of $20,000, $40,000, overall with time. They're not going to nudge them to actually vote. They're just going to survey them and talk to them about the message. They're not going to harvest. And maybe their team is like 5 people, 5 to 8 people. And when you say we need more walkers because we're not going to hit that target, you know what these firms do? They give you excuses about how nobody wants to walk in the heat for $13, but don't worry, we're going to get it done. And then on a crappy campaign sidekick, they're just going to fill in that they knocked on all these doors, but people didn't answer. Or they were unsure. The quality of the data will crater because they're just filling it in to meet their mark. That's another thing everybody knows happens, but nobody wants to pretend. It's pathetic. It's pathetic.
We can do this, and we could do this well.
I would argue it could be done better with new sophisticated software that basically only we have.
Oh yes, no, we got this. This is doable, and this is
So just don't give away too
in
much.
my heart. I'm not going to give away anything, but it is possible, people, and don't be discouraged. All we have to do is play them at their own game on their same field. We're too busy not playing the same game they're playing. We're on a total opposite game than them, and it's so sad.
They're always 4 years behind, at least, Laura. Always. Like, so they realized that Obama beat Romney with a data operation. So Ronna McDaniel spends $1 billion on a permanent data operation that has massive latency issues. And Democrats move on from that with real-time data connected to, again, that's the benefit of being in a cartel. You get access to government employees, public sector people that are administrating the election, and they're actually conducting the election. You have access to vendors that are left-wing anyway. So you're being fed basically real-time data. You have billionaires who, unlike the right, they're willing to open up their pocket. They call somebody like me and they say, Rich, what do you need to do this? I could give them 7 figures and they wouldn't give a damn.
And
but on the right,
oh, sorry.
I was just going to say on the right, no.
Well, this is where I was having lots of conversations. Yes, Democrats are Democrats, but they are unified. Like you said, they are very hive mind, right? But the problem with Republicans is everybody wants to be the savior. They're too self-important to actually say, hey, if we come together, we can do this. And that is another problem that has to be fixed.
Or even, Laura, like, this guy may be able to do it better, so I'm going to take a back seat. They don't do that.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, Kevin McCarthy's first demand from all these candidates that lost, that should have won, get rid of your team that won you the primary. And if you don't, I'm not going to help you. Joe Kent was one of the few people who refused to get rid of some of the people he had around him, and which I'm not sure some of that was wise. I don't know, but at least he was loyal to those people. And he barely lost, right? So everyone else wanted money from the NRCC. So they felt they had no choice to do that. But along that comes their strategy. And if you go against their strategy, they will threaten to pull the funding from you. And then you've already gotten rid of your old team. And their fundraising apparatus is already dissolved. So it would take you would be in the rears trying to make a change. It's a bad system. They're out for themselves, Danielle. Absolutely right. They're out for themselves, and they are not out for the cause. Whereas Democrats are out for the cause. Do they want to make money in the process? Of course. But they are dedicated. They believe in the cause more than they believe in themselves. Holy crap, it's 2:59. We have to roll. All right. Again, thank you to everyone who watched, to the sponsors. It's forpatriots.com/TPP. All right. Also, tpplikesgold.com. Check out GOLDCO, and they're a great opportunity to get extra silver. And there are also great opportunities to roll over your IRA if you're looking to do that. All right. I don't want to give advice here, but it's not the best time to start a new precious metals IRA unless you have like 50 grand. You don't know what to do with. It's not. But if you have an IRA, no matter the size that you want to roll over, great time to do it. You have great opportunities. tpplikesgold.com. Talk to the folks at GOLDCO now. Beat them out and get that free coin. Call them before they call you after you fill that out and get that free coin once you do your transaction. Also, for the new folks on the block, Brickhouse Nutrition. Let me just read this real quick. When I tell you that you need a dose of vegetables and fruits a day that we simply don't get, I kid you not. And in order to meet this or exceed it, like Brickhouse did, and I'm not going to say the word organic a million times. Just assume that everything I say has the word
all organic. Yes.
All organic.
Real quick, what is the website for Brickhouse?
Brickhousenutrition.com. Brickhousenutrition.com. And I'll put it in
your promo code?
Yeah, and the promo code is simple. TPP. All right, I just sent it to locals. Here it is for Rumble now. PWH. Thank you for that. And Getter, just went to Getter. YouTube coming your way right now because I know it's new. And matter of fact, I got to go back and fix that. I got to put the link in the description, which I will do. All right. For Brickhouse, are you ready? Spinach powder, parsley powder, kale powder. This is the green blend. It's a green blend, a prebiotic blend, and a metabolic blend. But here we go. Spinach powder, parsley, kale, barley, wheat, spirulina, it's so small, chlorella, green pepper, green apple, green banana, sweet potato, broccoli. Here's the prebiotics. All right. And the red, which is the Reds blend. All right. Strawberry, raspberry, blueberry, tart cherry, pomegranate, cranberry, and beet. Here's the metabolic: ginger, licorice, turmeric, green tea, wild berry, and stevia. The wild berry and the stevia is because it's wild berry flavoring. The other one has, I mean, they're all the same. It's just that the lemon lime has a lemon lime in it component as well. And then the flavorless is everything minus that. There's just no way to get all that in your daily diet. And believe you me, once you try it, you're like, pow, I'm off to the races. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I feel like it's incredible. Real quick comments on the RNC chair. She's got to go. She's got to go. I don't have anything particularly against Rona, but I think she was a good fundraiser, filled her purpose with that permanent data operation, but they're behind now. And they don't understand how to move forward. They did not see this coming. And frankly, the misappropriations of funds is disgusting. I don't know if you guys read that article, but the amount of money spent on nonsense is disgusting. All right. So how is the DNC doing? How are Democrats doing this? Basically abandoning the DNC altogether. They're using a totally different model that's based on super PACs, shared crowdfunding, which I don't agree with, but it works for them, and the DCCC. McCarthy actually and the NRCC actually outraised the DCCC. But a lot of people took that as an achievement in its own right. But that's only because some of the progressive money went into those PACs who were doing things like I was telling you. They claim it's like, we're teaching you how to engage voters. No, you're teaching people how to get Democratic ballots. But it's being done through PACs and unlimited contributions. It was smart. Had that money not been spent on those ballot harvesting efforts, they would have went to the DCCC and McCarthy would not have outraised them. All right. So there we have it. All right. We'll see you on Friday, and we're going to talk more about this concept of how to poll people more on new culture issues. All right. I think it's very simple to ask about people of faith, ask about faith issues, but there's so much more than that. Entertainment. I just want to dip into this a lot more. You see the entertainment industry always pushing a liberal agenda before people agree with it. They're trying to normalize things that most Americans don't think are normal. I want to jump on this. It's more than that. I want to jump on it because I do believe that Andrew Breitbart was right, that politics runs downstream from culture. So I want to stay, I want to do this to figure out ahead of the, I had to stay ahead of everybody else. All right. So God bless you guys as well. Thank you everyone for joining. Thanks to the sponsors. Go visit them, go check them out, and we'll see you on Friday. All right, folks. All right. All the best as always. Deuces. No outro music this time. We're just going to go.
See you Free Will on Friday. Woo-woo.
See you on Free Will on Friday at noon.